Thank you very much to welcome you to Medzone African Motives. I want us to look at sales management and five, part two. As you know, in the previous presentation, we're busy doing the part one. Part one, sales management and five revision. So this part two is still this part of what? Of the question paper that we did in the first presentation. So this is question 4 and 5, which is still the part of what? Of the previous presentation that we did or we revised together. So still let us be together from the start of this presentation to the end of it. So you know the instructions. So we will just quickly go to the question 4 and 5 now. So this is still this paper that was written in November 2024. So let's quickly go to question 4. So question 4 read as follows. Sales forecasting is very important because it provides basis for organizational planning, budgeting. If the forecast is in error, the plans based on it will be wrong too. So the question now says, name and discuss any 5 methods of sales forecasting methods. Then now we come to question 4.1. So the first method of forecasting method is the jury of executive opinion. So when you're talking about jury of executive opinion, we're talking about the method whereby we are going to use what the experts, people with experience. So this method is used whereby now the sales manager or any person who wants to start a new business or launch a new product or start a new branch, he or he doesn't have what the information or experience. So this is whereby now he's going to use the experience of the executives who are well experienced, who will help him to come up with a good predictions, good forecast. So like as it says, the experts with years experience are used in this method that is that. So this is the most commonly used method and is very subjective because individual opinions are used. So we are saying it's very subjective because you're going to use what the opinions of individuals. So you'll find that other peoples can give us incorrect forecast, incorrect predictions. So that is why we are saying it's subjective, it's not objective. So this method is used where a new business is started, where you want to start a new business and you don't have information about how you're going to start it, or where a new product line is launched and then you don't know, you don't have any information about that product that you want to launch. So you're going to use what the experts who has what experience. So that is that. Or a company plans to sell in a new area or market or where you want to open a new branch. So this is where this method can be applicable. So it is used where no previous data is available, like I've said, where there is no previous data. So then you have to go for people with previous data, people with experience. So in this method, collective views of top company executives are used to develop sales forecast and an average estimate is calculated. So you're going to use what? Collective views, the views, opinions of top executives. So this technique is of great value since important subjective factors such as competitive activities, economic conditions, and etc. are taken into account. So now let us move on to Delphi technique method as one of the forecast methods. So with Delphi technique method, with this method, it's the same as your executive opinion. The only difference that lies is that with this method, the experts are not going to meet face to face. They are not going to physically meet. So they are going to give their predictions, their opinions, while at least they are still in their respective places. So that is that. So like it says, The Delphi technique utilizes the opinions of executives, still the same as jury of executives. It utilizes the opinions of the executive, but this one now without face-to-face discussion. That is where the difference is with the jury of executive opinion. So this is a more structured method compared to a jury of executive opinion. So they are saying it's a structured method because these executives, they are not going to meet face to face. So it means that there is not going to be a dominant person, or there are not going to be group pressures that will influence one another. So that is what we're saying. It's a structured method. Opinions are given anonymously, meaning to say people are not going to see each other. Everyone is going to give opinion at his or respective place without the interaction with other executives. So this method creates more accurate focus than jury of executive opinion. The focus will take the predictions of each executive member and then combine them in an anonymous summary. That is that. This method is more objective than jury of executive because there is no dominant person, like I've said, no group pressures that will influence one another. So that is that. Let us move on to another method of sales forecast, whereby now we're talking about the Salesforce composite. With this method now, this is where now we're talking about where you're going to use the forecast opinions from your employees, salespeople, who are very closest to your customers, who know much about your customers. So you're going to use the forecast. And this method is applicable. You are going to use it whereby you are with experienced senior sales people. That is when it can work. Like it says, this method can be used successfully if the company has senior salespeople with lots of experience. That is what I've said. This method is based on each salesperson focus of their own sales territories because they know very well about their territory. They know the buying behavior, the buying patterns of their territory that they are safe in. Hope we are together. Their estimations are then combined and modified by management to produce company sales forecast. Salespeople use previous sales figures as well as the experience making the predictions. Hope we are together. Now we come to time series analysis. Now we come to time series analysis. With time series analysis, this is very important. Past sales data. We're going to use past sales data. So this method uses past sales data over a specific period to identify patterns or trends such as seasonal changes or growth. We can even make an example, practical example. A clothing store studies its sales over the past 3 years and notices that sales always increase in December. So it uses this pattern to focus the higher sales for the coming December. Like now it says, a time series analysis attempts to project historical trends. It attempts to project historical trends into future. So it attempts to project historical trends. It looks at the past sales data and then into the future. So the historical trends will enable the sales manager to predict what the future. A time series analysis set of observation on various variables such as sales. Forecasting is based on the assumption that patterns observed in changes in the past sales levels can now be used to predict what future sales. Time series can comprise different types of movements variations, which we're going to talk about trends, cyclical, seasonal, random variations. So that is that. So let us move on to another uh, focus type of focus. So now we are on users' expectations. Now we're talking about the end user, people who are using the product. So meaning we're talking about the customers themselves. So this method is also known as users' expectations. This method relies on the answers from actual users, customers regarding their intent to buy the product during forecasting level. So they will tell what they need. So this method is the easiest to use where the potential amount consists of small numbers of customers. So whereby you're seeking a small number of customers, you can allow them to give their forecast because it will not take you time to respond to their needs. That. So this method is mostly used with individual in many with industrial products. So now let us come to indicators as one of the methods that we can use. Indicators. Let us come to indicators. Indicators is one of the method of the forecasting. So when we talk of indicators with people, we're talking about this method uses economic. It uses economic or market indicators. It uses economic or market indicators. That's when you're thinking about income levels, inflation, or population growth to estimate future sales. So, meaning to say, these indicators show how external factors may affect demand. For example, a car dealer forecasts the higher sales because economic indicators show increase in consumer income or employment rates. Like it says, often certain factors relate to the sales or costs associated with the product, but the impact only occurs after some time. So a leading economic indicator is an economic indicator that changes thereafter the economy follows a trend. However, this method is complicated and single indicators are not adequate for making a forecast. So these are all about the methods of forecast. So now we can come to question 2. A question 2 now says, a telephone. The telephone is one of the most important communication channels available for a salesperson in personal selling. So salespeople should therefore know how to use it effectively and professionally. So therefore, use what? Telephone effectively and professionally. So the question is, mention 6 guidelines that are recommended as a code of ethics for telephones. A code of ethics for tele sales. We want to know the code of ethics in telesales, how you can use a telephone effectively and professionally. Then they say the contact person must immediately give their name, the name of the business, and then as well as the purpose of the call. Then an offer should be ambiguous. When we're saying it should be ambiguous, we're saying it should be clear. Before the prospect commits themselves, the price of the product or service, conditions, terms, and installment conditions must be provided. Before they can commit themselves, make sure that you as a salesperson, you've already provided the price of the product or of the service conditions, as well as the installment conditions. And additional costs such as the space handling packaging must be stated. Those additional costs, make sure that they are stated so that when the prospect commits him or herself, he is fully aware of all those things. People should not be contacted at unreasonable hours. You don't call a prospect even during those hours that are very long, awkward, very awkward hours, like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock when they are asleep. So that is that. A telephone now. Telephone orders must be delivered as quickly as possible. Unlisted telephone subscribers must be left in peace, do not be approached. Telesales must be subject to an issue code of ethics that applies to the professional sales people. So now let us go to question 4.3. Question 4.3 to this was the salesperson must handle failure in such a way that when the salesperson leaves the prospect, he or she can be assured of warm welcome at a later date on which they will be able to close the deal. So, what steps are recommended for salespeople after unsuccessful close? So, steps that are recommended after successful close. So, here are the steps that are recommended after unsuccessful close. Create a goodwill. So when you're creating a goodwill, that is when you say be polite and thank the prospect for their time to leave a positive impression for future. Review the sales presentation. How are you going to review the sales presentation? Try by honest to analyze your presentation to identify which parts went well and which didn't. That is that. Record everything that happened. Write down details of the meeting for future reference and improvement. Ask the prospect why they declined the proposition and listen carefully. So, meaning to say now, understand their reasons to improve your next approach or offer better solutions. List all the mistakes made. So, identify any errors or weaknesses in your approach and to avoid repeating them. Maintain contact with the prospect. You need to say, keep in touch because the situation or needs may change later. Do not give up. Stay motivated and keep improving for the next opportunity. That is that. So now let us go to question 4.4. Question 4.4. Here we are on 4.4. The question says, name two main categories into which objections can be classified. So let's quickly attend to it. So we are having physical objections and psychological objections. Physical objections, this is when the customer resistance is based on tangible or real factors such as price, quality, size, or delivery time. That is that. But when you talk of psychological now objections, this comes from the customer's feelings, attitudes or beliefs rather than facts like fear, doubt, or lack of trust. Example, a customer may say, I'm not sure your brand is red. That is that. So let's quickly go to question 2. Question 5, sorry. Let us go quickly to question 5. Here we are on our question 5. Question 5.1. First impressions are fortunately lasting impressions, so it is therefore extremely important that salespeople use the correct approach right from the very first minute of the appointment and make good impression on the prospect. Name and discuss any 5 approach techniques except the question technique. Name 5 approach technique. Name 5 approach except the question. So let's quickly attend to question 5.1. So here, our approach technique. So the first one says make a stimulating statement. How are you going to make a stimulating statement? You make a stimulating statement because you start with an interesting or attention grabbing comment to arouse curiosity, to arouse curiosity, to arouse curiosity. For example, you can say, did you know a product can cut your energy cost by 40%? That's how you arouse the curiosity. Like it says, with this approach, the salesperson creates the prospect by making stimulating statement. That's when you are starting with what an interesting or attention-grabbing comment. The stimulating statement should be something that will make the prospect listen to salesperson immediately. So the statement can be about what the prospect has done for another person or company. It can also be about the achievement of faith regarding the product's function. So the salesperson should be able to support the statement with evidence. So now let's come to shock. Let us come to shock. With shock approach, with shock approach, that is where you begin. You begin with a a surprising fact. You begin with a surprising fact or statement who immediately immediately get customers immediately get customers attention. For example, we can say every minute the business lose thousand because of poor data protection. I will protect it. So that is that. That is a shock approach. Like it says, this technique is used to grab attention of the prospect by shooting them, developing a fear or arousing attention and interest to listen better. This approach works well, especially for prospects who are aware of dangers but who, for some reason, keep delaying. Since people selling insurance or security products can successfully make use of this. So now let us come to product approach. Let's come to product approach. With product approach, you will show or tell the product to the customer. The customer that they can see or try it for themselves. Try it for themselves. So that is that. So, for example, a salesperson let the customer test the new smartphone's camera features. So you see, they have tried it themselves. They've just seen it. So with this approach, the product sells them itself. It speaks on itself. That is why they say the sales person's approach is built entirely around the product. With this approach, the product speaks for itself because of the quality of it. Now, it doesn't need more thinking on its behalf. It can just communicate itself. It is used especially when the product is unique, very attractive, such as luxurious car. The product itself do not the product itself not a technique will grab the attention and the interest of the prospect. This technique is based on the salesperson saying nothing and taking out the product and handing it to the prospect or playing it. Display it. So the product immediately arouses the attention and the interest in the salesperson and immediately proceed with the sales presentation. So now let us move on to customer benefit approach. Customer benefit approach. So the customer benefit approach now you start by mentioning a clear benefit, a clear benefit the customer will get from the product. Customer will get from that. So you will hear about what the benefit. You're just going to know about the benefit that the customer will get from the product. So that's that. So this technique involves the sales person focusing on the prospect attention and focus on the benefits of the product or service. The benefits must be real interest to the prospect. Will be what this prospect wants, so that you know very well that you're going to attend or respond to their needs. Salesperson must know the prospect's own motives. You need to know their buying motives. When do they buy product? What do they buy for good? What do they like from the product? So you need to know this from pre-approach information gathered. Otherwise, this method will be unsuccessful. Right from the start, just after meeting or introduction, the salesperson point of the buying motive that is that. So now we are on complement um complement approach. Complement approach. So complement approach. This is whereby you open now. Open the conversation. Conversation by giving a sincere compliment. By giving a sincere compliment. By giving a sincere compliment to the customer. Really? Customer. For example, I really like how you open your students all the out. I feel like how organized your story is. It shows great attention to detail. So, like it said, if this prospect, this salesperson looks for something to compliment the prospect. So the compliment must, however, be sincere, unfeigned with empathy. Otherwise, the prospect may feel offended. The compliment approach must not be all but done. This does not work in all possible. This technique can be used successfully with closing techniques. So that is that. So now we come to re-approach. Re-approach, premium approach technique. Premium approach technique. This is whereby we offer now a free gift, or something something to attract the customer interest. Customer interest. Like to say, if you send up to date, you will receive a free travel size version of the product. That is that. So, like it says, the premium approach, this technique is based on every person's desire to receive needs of something for free. This approach can be an offer to a prospect with problems such as free inspection or service. And it could even be a small group or some of them. Now we come to and a showmanship approach. So a showmanship approach, this is where the salesperson opens the discussion dramatically with exaggerating actions and gestures. So this salesperson backs up words with action and gestures. That will handle the product, their posture, facial expressions, help people know that was skill. So this approach involves the use of more than one of the prospect senses. For instance, taste this new ice cream, smell this new people, I feel the material, listen to the sounds. So the prospect becomes involved and is made part of the presentation right from the start. Words like I see, look, feel, listen, lie, and others are attention getters and arouse interest. So that is all about this methods. So now we have to go to question 5.2. Question 5.2. 5.2 reads as follows. Name 5 advantages of users' expectation as forecasting. Do you know when to hear about users' expectation, when to hear about where we use what our final users of the product, the end product users, the customers. So we want to know the advantages of users' expectations. So users' expectation, the forecast is determined by the actual product users. Forecast is something fast and inexpensive when only few customers are involved. So it is very fast because we have said this method is applicable when you have a small number of customers. So that makes it fast and not that much expensive. It's also useful for forecasting new to the market products. Management can get direct feedback on thinking of the people in the market. detailed product range of information can be obtained, and then you are to get 10 marks. Now coming to 5.3. Here is our 5.3. It is sometimes difficult to distinguish between prospective and pre-approach. List 6 points that can be used in qualification criteria for prospects. That is that. 5.3. 5.3. So here we are on our 5.3. So we're talking about the need or use. So when you're talking about the need or use, you're talking about the prospect must have a real need or use for the product or service. Ability to buy. The prospect is the financial means of value to make what purchase. The size of the potential sales transaction. It means the potential sales will be large or significant enough to justify the salesperson's time or effort. Frequency of payment. Or the product should be needed regularly or frequently by the prospect. That is agents of need whereby the product is frequently or repeatedly. Quality to buy. The customer must have the proper position to make purchasing decision. So now let us go to question 5.4, which is the last question. 5.4 of this flows. The question technique is one of the techniques that the salesperson used in their approach. Name 4 important requirements of the question technique. Name 4 important requirements of the question technique. So here we are, 5.4. The question must not prompt negative response. The question must be relevant, specific, and tailored to each prospect's needs. Ask personal, confidential questions when necessary. Do not ask information the prospect cannot cover. So this is the end of the presentation. And people make sure that you are going to share with others and let us use this presentation as to prepare for our final examination that which is going to take place very soon. Thank you very much for your time.